I started my writing life writing about my experience in the American War in Vietnam. I was a soldier in 1967, 1968 there. And the first book that I published about that war was called Song of Napalm, and I'm going to read some poems from that book. It's called Song of Napalm. For my wife. After the storm, after the rain stopped pounding, we stood in the doorway watching horses walk off lazily across the pasture's hill. We stared through the black screen, our vision altered by the distance, so I thought I saw a mist kicked up around their hooves when they faded like cutout horses away from us. The grass was never more blue in that light, more scarlet. Beyond the pasture, trees scraped their voices into the wind. Branches crisscrossed the sky like barbed wire, but you said they were only branches. Okay, the storm stopped pounding. I'm trying to say this straight. For once, I was sane enough to pause and breathe outside my wild plans, and after the hard rain, I turned my back on the old curses. I believed they swung finally away from me. But still the branches are wire and thunder is the pounding mortar. Still I close my eyes and see the girl running from her village, napalm stuck to her dress like jelly, her hands reaching for the no one who waits in waves of heat before her. So I can keep on living, so I can stay here beside you. I try to imagine that she runs down the road and wings beat inside her until she rises above the stinking jungle and her pain eases and your pain and mine. But the lie swings back again. The lie works only as long as it takes to speak, and the girl runs only as far as the napalm allows until her burning tendons and crackling muscles draw her up into that final position burning bodies so perfectly assume. Nothing can change that. She is burned behind my eyes, and not your good love, and not the rain-swept air, and not the jungle green pasture unfolding before us can deny it. One of the duties that field soldiers had when they came out of the field to base camp was a duty that was called, and I'm quoting here, burning shit. And literally, that's what it was. Here we were, the most mechanized, powerful modern army in the history of warfare, but they forgot about what to do about that stuff. So no modern equipment. And what the field soldiers would do is come in, make a big pile, light it, and stand there, keep it burning. That's the detail. Someone wrote about this poem in a review of the book that it was in years ago, and it was really funny because they went on and on about what the word shit in the poem meant, and all these elaborate explanations about, and I truly only meant it to be what it is, so. Don't go symbol hunting there. This is called Burning Shit at An Khe. Into the pit I had to climb down with a rake and matches. Eventually you had to do something because it just kept piling up, and it wasn't our country. It wasn't our air thick with the sick smoke. So another soldier and I lifted the shelter off its blocks to expose the homemade toilets, 55-gallon drums cut in half with crude wood seats that splintered. We soaked the piles in fuel oil and lit the stuff and tried to keep the fire burning. To take my first turn, I paid some kid a care package of booze from home. I'd walked past the burning once and gagged the whole heart of myself. It smelled like the world was on fire. And then when my turn came again, there was no one, so I stuffed cotton up my nose and marched up that hill. We poured and poured until it burned and black smoke curdled, but the fire went out. Heavy artillery hammered the evening away in the distance. Vietnamese laundry women watched from a safe place, laughing. I'd grunted out 8 months of jungle and thought I had a grip on things, but we flipped the coin and I lost, and so climbed down into my fellow soldiers' shit and began to sink and didn't stop until I was deep to my knees. Lift ships cut the air above me. The hacking blast of their blades ripped dust in swirls, so every time I tried to light a match, it died, and then it all came down on me, the stink and the heat and the worthlessness, until I slipped and climbed out of that hole and ran past the olive-drab tents and trucks and clothing and everything green, as far from the shit as the fading light allowed. Only now I can't fly. I lay down in it and finger paint the words of who I am across my chest until I'm covered, and there's only one smell, one word. I had a dream several years ago in which a neighbor boy who didn't exist, he was a made-up neighbor boy in my dream, was taking me out to see an egret that he'd shot. I was living in Virginia at the time, and there were a lot of egrets there. And there were also a lot of egrets in Vietnam in certain places, the ones that hadn't been driven out by the fire. So I wrote this poem based on the dream. It was a very powerful dream. And I sent it to a friend of mine, Reg Gibbons, who used to be the editor of Tri-Quarterly, and he called me and said, "I love that Vietnam poem you sent me." And I said, "I didn't send you any Vietnam poems." And he said, "Yeah, the one about the egret." And I looked at it again, and I thought, oh, my God, he's right. My neighbor's boy has lifted his father's shotgun and stolen down to the backwaters of the Elizabeth, and in the moon he's blasted a snowy egret from the shallows. It's stalked for small fish. Midnight, my wife wakes me. He's in the backyard with a shovel, so I go down half drunk with pills that let me sleep to see what I can see and if it's safe. The boy doesn't hear me come across the dewy grass. He says through tears he has to bury it. He says his father will kill him, and he digs until the hole is deep enough and gathers the egret carefully into his arms as if not to harm the blood-splattered wings gleaming in the flashlight's beam. His man's muscled shoulders shake with the weight of what he can't set right no matter what. But one last time he tries to stay a child, sobbing, "Please don't tell." He says he only meant to flush it from the shadows. He only meant to watch it fly. But the shot spread too far, ripping into the white wings, spanned awkwardly for a moment until it glided into brackish death. I want to grab his shoulders, shake the lies loose from his lips, but he hurts enough. He burns with shame for what he's done, with fear for his hard father's fists I've seen crash down on him for so much less. I don't know what to do but hold him. If I let go, he'll fly to pieces before me. What a time we share that can make a good boy steal away, wiping out from the blue face of the pond what he hadn't even known he loved, blasting such beauty into nothing.